What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dawg Sports. I am Mike. That is Evo. And that's my high-quality H2O. We have got playoff hockey going, playoff basketball going, but we're still talking NFL, baby. That's what we do a lot of on this show. I can't wait. We got AFC Draft Grades. Man, I don't know if we're ready for how I feel about the Browns. Evo, I might surprise you a little bit. We'll see. But my man, you're Wild playing right now. My Cavs playing right now. How you doing, brother? We talked about your team last week and how the NFC did. If you have not seen that video, you can go check it out on the YouTube. While you're there, please like, share, and subscribe. But my man, how are you doing today?
Doing good. I'm unusually tired for whatever reason. But I'm here, I'm ready to go. Got an energy drink popped. And yeah, I got to get the energy up because my Wild are playing tonight. Had a big Timberwolves win last night versus Wemby and the Spurs. Anthony Edwards is a dog as usual. The guy's playing on half a knee and is still one of the best players on the court, which is awesome. It is a great time right now for Minnesota sports. And usually that involves the Vikings, but not right now. It is Wild. It is Timberwolves, and second round of the playoffs for both of them. It is outstanding, awesome stuff. And yeah, my Wild are tied currently with Colorado 1-1. So, wife is from Colorado originally. She can't tell me a single thing about hockey, let alone the Avalanche. But we have a rivalry in the house right now. So it's been great, and it worked out really good for my Timberwolves in the first round as well because those Nuggets got knocked off. So. A lot of Minnesota v. Colorado stuff going on over the past couple of weeks. So good time for sports, but I'm super excited to get into the AFC, break down all the drafts for the AFC teams this week because, we've had a little bit of time for things to sit and percolate a little bit for people to start get their true feelings about the drafts and their grades and everything. So it'll be a fun one to go over.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into the AFC for sure. I do want to say, though, I thought it was very interesting, as you were saying, all the great things about Minnesota sports right now. There was a team that you seem to leave out.
Yeah, fuck the Twins.
Okay, just want to make sure we were still on. Fuck the Twins. Okay.
The Twins actually got some parting shots, which was really great because they, I think his name's Charlie Walters, writes for the Pioneer Press, former Minnesota Twins, player. Older gentleman for sure, but he writes for all sports now for the Pioneer Press up in Minnesota and St. Paul. And he put out an article this week, which got some people kind of worried, some conjecture. Are the Wilfs looking to sell the Vikings? And it was complete postulation based off of us not spending a whole lot in free agency this year. Teams don't need to spend a lot of money. Doesn't mean they're trying to sell. They're just trying to get their books right, especially when they spent the most money of any team, not the most cap, but the most money last year in free agency. This year is kind of a reset to the mean. And anyways, that story came out and a lot of other beat writers had to come out and say, no, the Wilfs are very much invested in this team and they are planning to have multi-generational hand-downs of the franchise within their family. But there was a lot of parting shots in there through all the articles of like, the Vikings aren't the Polads. It's they aren't spending less money because they are terrible pieces of shit owners who don't give a fuck about the sport or the team and are just trying to get money. It's because they are working their books and resetting things a little bit, which is pretty normal. So yeah, fuck the Twins. And as we just talked about, the Timberwolves and the Wild both move on to the second round of the playoffs the same day. One of the best days in sports for Minnesota, probably top 5, with like the Minneapolis Miracle being up there. With the World Series wins for the Twins when they were actually a decent team. The Twins did win that day, but I don't really count that as part of the fun because fuck the Twins.
Because fuck the Twins. I agree, actually. I've been trying to say fuck the Twins since I've known you, and you're finally getting on board with it.
Yeah, look, it's an organizational thing. I would love to come back to the team, but some big changes have to happen.
Some big changes.
And it's not $2 beers.
No? $2 beers don't sell you?
No, I'm not some beer slut.
Are we sure? I mean, we could be. Whiskey slut. Got it. Understood. Makes a lot more sense there. Oh, man. Baseball is in full effect, but dude, we don't need to spend any time on baseball right now. The Yankees are really good, and it makes me very angry. So let's talk about football.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. So we did this last week for the NFC. We broke down all the draft picks for every team from the NFC and gave our thoughts, feelings, grades, not necessarily full-on letter grades or anything like that. And we had a pretty good diatribe previous, and I would definitely go back to that video if you didn't watch it to get our thoughts on each of these drafts. This is more about the process of how these players were drafted, because I like my Minnesota Vikings draft a lot. The process I kind of get, but also some of the players seemed like reaches. And if we reevaluated where those players were taken, if they were, we took a Max Bredesen in a later round, I'd feel a lot better about it, even though I do really like Max Bredesen. So this is a little bit about the process. It's not necessarily these drafts are going to be good or bad. It's just how we feel about them in the moment. Do the players seem to fit? Do they work with the system? Were they big reaches or steals versus the consensus board, which again, Arif Hassan has done a fantastic job with that consensus board. And yeah, draft analysts and pundits put together their boards. They're not going to be right 100% of the time. That's why they're not on NFL teams. But also, the consensus board, year in and year out, tends to be relatively accurate, gauging success. So it is a good metric to go off of. So this isn't us saying like, hey, just because X team took all these players and we don't like any of them, or we think they're all reaches, that this is going to be a bad draft class necessarily. It's more about the process and if we think the fit is going to work or not.
100%. And that will definitely play into my grades when it comes to the Browns. But my man, let's get this thing started. We're going to go AFC. Baltimore would be number one there with alphabetical order being order of the day. And God damn it, man. Why did they have to get Vega Ione? They had a draft that was just fucking it's prototypical Baltimore draft. They sat there, took the best player, and it completely fit their scheme, and it makes 100% sense. Great player, great value. They did it with Vega Ione, Zion Young. Jacoby Lane, I think maybe would have been a little bit of an overdraft, but I think if you switch Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt, there's no fucking worry about who's drafted where in my mind. So it doesn't matter in this. You continue on. Chandler Rivers, a guy that I really fucking like. I don't know much about Matthew Hibner. The tight end class got crazy deep. Like they were taking all sorts of people. I did not know Hibner. They took a punter in this thing. And Ryan Eckley, Rashawn Benny goes in the 7th round. And then Evan Beerston. Who else did I miss? John Cuevas, another tight end. And Adam Randall. Benny. What's that?
Rashawn Benny there at pick 250 as well.
I think I said Rashawn Benny, but I had him out of order.
Sorry.
I got caught up.
Wild get scored on again. God.
When I got on the Jacoby Lane, Elijah Surratt thing, I started just kind of wavering, picking and choosing fucking names.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of how this is a great draft. This is an A draft. I don't necessarily agree with all the spots where they were picked, but you switch Lane and Surratt, I have no complaints at all. And they still get both. So this is fantastic for them.
Yeah, that's the thing that, we spoke about this the last show as well. Not every player in a draft class is going to hit, right? We're not going to like every player in a draft class. But in general, when all is said and done, 3 to 5 years from now, if you come out of a draft class with like 25 to 30% of the guys being role players or good above average, so on and so forth, going on to second contracts, that's a pretty solid draft, because a lot of the draft is a crapshoot, especially as you get into the later rounds. Looking at this draft class, you have 11 picks, which is cool because you could hit on 11 guys, but it's probably not going to happen. Out of this class, I do like 6 of the guys. I don't like all the value. Like you brought up, the biggest glaring thing for me is Jacoby Lane and Elijah Surratt. I like Jacoby Lane. I liked him a lot later than pick 80. Whereas Elijah Surratt, I think, was an absolute steal where they got him at pick 115. I liked him better than his running mate, Burks, who ended up going first round, I believe. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think that Surratt could be a Keon Coleman style possession receiver at top echelon of what he could be. So I think that's fantastic value, which kind of overrides some of the bad value of where Jacoby Lane went, because Jacoby Lane, while he is a big height guy, good speed, good possession, he was a little bit more of a one-trick pony who opened things up a lot more for his running mate at USC in Makai Lemon. So I like Jacoby Lane. It's a type of receiver that they absolutely needed there in Baltimore, which is that big, lanky guy that can kind of stretch the field and be a little bit more possession receiver. But just those top 2 picks, Zion Young, I think, was fringe first round possible, but he is exactly the type of defensive end that fits with what typically has been there in Baltimore and is going to be really solid. And then, yeah, Vig Ione, fantastic offensive lineman, easily the best guard in this class, pure guard. He kind of falls in their lap. It's good process to take a really good player. What's interesting to me from this class is you get a new head coach, defensive minded, and you could tell that he didn't have super control over this class because there's a lot of offensive players.
Heavy. Yeah, offense heavy for sure.
Yeah, and so they're expecting him to kind of pull the defense up by their bootstraps based off the players that they have there, which is already an okay defense. The secondary was a little bit questionable, and yeah, they're starting to age out on the edge and linebacker and things like that. But this was very offense heavy, so they're leaning into their best player on the team, which is Lamar Jackson. Get pieces around him to help him out. So yeah, overall, really solid class. I like a lot of the picks that they got. Like I said, 6 of the 11. That's, over half their class that I like and think it can be contributors to this team in the NFL. And if half of those guys hit, and I would assume Big Ione is going to be one of them.
Yeah, for sure. That'd be so hard to miss.
And again, I like Chandler Rivers a lot too, so I think that he can at least be a role player. But I would say Vig Ione, Elijah Surratt, and Zion Young all have pretty high capabilities of being second contract type guys with this team. That makes this class kind of a knock it out of the park type of class.
Ravens on the Sharp Football Analysis draft capital over expected chart. If you guys are not aware, that's what we were using on the last episode as well. The lower the number, the better. Negative numbers are better, obviously. Ravens ranked 12th, a negative 0.27. So this is a very good draft by most people's analysis. I mean, you look at it and it just feels like a really, really good draft that I don't like seeing as a Browns fan, because I expect 3 out of those 4 guys I think will have a solid role. I don't know which receiver it's going to be. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's not Zion Young. But I feel like 3 out of the 4 of those guys have a chance to be like solid role players at a very minimum. But Vig Ione could be a fucking all-pro.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
all right, next up, Buffalo Bills. They come into this class with 10 picks, starting off pick 35, just out of the first round because they traded back some. They get edge TJ Parker, guy that you talked to out there at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Guy that we liked, but also had some questions about, is he really putting out everything on the field? Didn't see as much of the highlight stuff that you would hope to, which I think is what caused him to fall out of the first round there.
And before we get too far into that, I want to bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know it's been brought up about TJ Parker. It's been brought up about other guys at Clemson as well. Should we be asking the guys about at Clemson, or should we be asking these questions of Clemson University and maybe Dabo Swinney, because they have not been very good. Things have not gone great for Dabo. And I think that there's a possibility that maybe they just don't fucking respect that man.
Yeah, it's a really interesting situation.
This is because you can't be every fucking Clemson guy all of a sudden just forgot how to play football.
It is a very valid question, because we've seen a lot of guys from Clemson who are very obviously talented, and then they seem to underperform in college. And even going into the NFL, like the last really good Clemson defender that I can think of is Christian Wilkins, the old fondler, toe guy, whatever. Like, so it's a bit removed. And you have a bunch of guys that, your Peter Woods that comes out this year, and TJ Parker. They've got questions about, are they wanting to be the star on the field, or are they happy to be on the field and just
I don't know if they were happy to be on the field because of what the hell was happening at Clemson.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that they're such a talented roster, and for them to not be as dominant as they could or should have been, it definitely starts to bring question into coaching a little bit. But you would think that some of that would start to fix itself when these players make it to the NFL. Just we still haven't really seen that from a lot of those Clemson guys, that more highly touted Clemson players, specifically on defense, that come into the NFL. They still haven't really lived up to the hype and expectation as much, which scares me a little bit about TJ Parker as well. But edge defender, absolutely a big need there for the Bills. Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State with pick 62. He's a guy that some people are really high on. You and I, not as much. The guy loves to go out there and get penalties. He's very grabby, but like the height, weight, speed aspect of it, like is
he's great.
We just got to get him a little bit less penalty prone potentially. But looking down the rest of this list, I mean, there's a couple guys I do like in the middle of the draft for sure. I know one that you're going to bring up later, Tommy Doman. You're a big punter fan there, right?
I am. I do. Hey, I'm fucking pumped that Tommy got drafted. I got to talk to Tommy at the combine. I was one of very few people that wanted to go talk to Tommy. But Tommy comes from a military family. So that was really cool to be able to talk to him. And to see a punter get drafted is obviously love it.
Yep.
I'm sure Pat McAfee was going ape shit.
For sure. But some of these kind of middle round guys that I like, Skylar Bell, a solid but unspectacular kind of receiver. Someone who I was a lot higher on Josh Downs when Josh Downs came out, but I feel like they fit into the same sort of mold. I just don't see as much upside. Just super, super productive there at UConn. But he doesn't have any of the traits that really excite me. So I think that he could fit in that number 3 type receiver role really well for them. But they have a lot of those guys on the team already. So I don't know if they're trying to go with the old Packers, like we just have an elite quarterback and we're just going to put a bunch of Jags out there who are going to catch the ball or get their fingers broken, a la Brett Favre. Caleb Elam-Zor, a very, very athletic, more modern linebacker, a little bit smaller, but very athletic, with, needs to work a little bit on his, not attention to detail, but his anticipation with stuff. But a guy who at pick 126, I think is solid. And then Jalen Kilgore, a guy who is listed as a cornerback, but he realistically is a safety or kind of slot safety, who I did like. Zane Durant, big dude in the middle. Toriano Pride at pick 220, I think is pretty solid value. None of these guys out of this draft class jump off the list to me and make me think like this was a banger draft class. I think this was a mid to average where you are getting a lot of guys who some of them could potentially work their way into being starters. But even with TJ Parker, I'm not looking at him and thinking like he's going to be a big contributor year one. I think that this is a depth class almost.
I agreed. It's not bad, but it ain't good. It works. It gives you some help in areas where they need help. But yeah, it's a depth draft. That's exactly how I would describe it. I don't know if I could say it any other way, man. Hey, congrats to Tommy Doman, though, dude.
Yeah, congrats to Tommy Doman. Second best punter in this class because the first one went undrafted to my Vikings.
No.
I can't think of his name. I just know he's from Australia. He's part of the international player pathway, which means we get a 91st roster spot.
Nice. I'm happy for Tommy, man. I learned some different shit about punting. He taught me some things about punting, about the trajectory and the angles. Yeah, dude. I'll post the video. I'm pretty sure I still have it on my phone.
Stay tuned to Raw Dawg Sports for our off-season content. We will have a punter-centric episode where
hell yeah, punters, baby.
The geometry of it. And we have a fight in the net in the wild game. I love it. All right, next up, we're going to go back to the AFC North to another team that is beloved by you, the Cincinnati Bengals. They come into this draft with 7 picks, and they had huge needs on defense. Did they fill those needs?
Listen, they have one of the best draft picks in this draft.
If you count Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah. Well, if you count Dexter Lawrence, it's fucking, this is a banger draft because Dexter Lawrence.
I know you're talking about Landon Robinson.
You're damn right I was.
I know you're talking about Landon Robinson. So look, this is
man.
Another interesting draft where this is one, there's a bunch of guys on here that I like. I'm kind of confused by some of them.
Double center had me fucked up, dude.
Yeah. And 2 guys that both I really like to be good starting centers in this class, but the draft is a gamble. So Connor Lew's coming off of a ACL injury. If it wasn't for that ACL, he probably would be the top rated center, but he might need some time to rehab, and who knows if he's going to return to strength. You also have Brian Parker II, who is a tackle there for Duke, but projects as a center, and I think that he could be a starting center in this league. Both of them have big questions of if they can transition and be successful in the NFL. So I guess if you're going to, you take 2 shots at the position if you really want that long term, and one of the 2 should hopefully work out. But still, it's kind of questionable when you do only have 7 picks. You traded away that first round pick in order to get yourself a Dexter Lawrence, which is very solid. And the contract that they got him on, also very solid. But this team was kind of bereft of talent on defense. The offense has been okay as long as Burrow stays upright and healthy. But the defense has been the serious question mark here. And then they get guys like a Tacario Davis, who, again, I like. Not at pick 72. That was a little early for me. And then you don't go defense again. I mean, you have Cassius Howell. Question marks about Cassius Howell, but they did need edge rusher. But then you don't get another guy until Landon Robinson with your last pick. I feel like they maybe should have focused elsewhere, or maybe they did just truly stick to this is our big board. It's less horizontal than others, but we're just going to kind of stick to that big board.
It's confusing, obviously. The double center, like I said, had me fucked up. I love the Landon Robinson pick. Love the Landon Robinson pick for them because he's going to be great for them, I think. Especially next to a Dexter Lawrence. Like, a guy that you can learn from, and like he's going to be great.
Two very separate, different types of players.
100%. But like,
they could play well.
You want to talk about like a pros pro though? Dexter Lawrence has been a pros pro since the moment he walked into the league. You want a guy to mentor a young D tackle. I think he's a great one to do it. Sure, different types of games, 100%. Landon's going to be more of your 3 to a 5 probably.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have different things, but those 2 next to each other, because I expect Landon to have a pretty strong rotation. I don't think he'll have any problem making the team. Is going to be really good. That defensive line was a huge problem for them. Their defensive line got ate up, and then their linebackers were getting fucking linemen free to them constantly, so that people were just running all over them. They addressed that. Now, Cassius Howell doesn't do a lot to help in the run game, but they do help there in the middle. And pick 10, I mean, you really make the right decision, I think. Dexter Lawrence is better than pick 10.
Yeah.
Now, will it all work out long enough that he's around to win anything remains to be seen. Because that defense still has some needs. There's still some holes to be filled on that defense. They'll be better this year, I think. And the Bengals can be competitive, but I don't know if that defense is fixed.
Yeah. this draft in the offseason as a whole didn't completely move the needle for me on the Bengals. They got better on defense, but with the draft like involved, I'm not convinced that it actually moved the needle in a positive direction. Not necessarily a negative direction, but I think that some of these are, I don't even want to call it questionable. I'm not excited about the draft class for him. It didn't hit in spots where there were definitely players available on defense that I would have felt like this guy probably could step in very quick, if not right away, and be an upgrade of what you already have. No safety. Tacario Davis, again, like a guy that I like, but I think needs some development for sure. I would have liked to have seen, a linebacker taken in a class that was filled with a lot of good linebackers. I feel like at that Tacario pick, you probably could have found yourself a pretty solid linebacker and gotten Tacario a round or two later. The Colby Young pick, I hate. I will say that. I had, a very late round grade on him, if not undraftable. And so taking him there at pick 140 just was a big stretch for me on a team that already has a lot of good receivers. Like you already got Yoshevich. You've got obviously your top two in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You've got like the receiver was one that you probably really could have overlooked. Gone a different direction.
For sure. Listen, it all hinges on what happens with that defensive line and Dexter Lawrence. Based on the picks, listen, and at the spot, they need to go edge, right? Maybe you can think of a different edge there, but they have to find a way to try to replace Hendrickson.
Mm-hmm.
They've already addressed the interior of the line, so that kind of ties their hands a little bit. It almost felt like they had to go edge, and they had to go with whoever they thought was the best on the board. What they do after that, sure, I don't necessarily understand, but I felt like they were kind of tied at the top.
A little bit. All right, man. Well, we can move on to your Cleveland Browns, which has been a relatively lauded class.
Yeah.
By most people, 10 picks.
Yeah. A lot of motherfuckers coming to Cleveland.
That you guys hit a lot of positions that you were in need of for sure. But I'll sit back and I will let you get into your thoughts here.
All right. So now this is a couple years in a row where I have not necessarily loved where guys were drafted. And I'm very hopeful that once again, I'm very wrong on that they should not have been in that draft slot. But here it goes. Spencer Fano pick. I really love this pick. He was one of the most athletic tackles in this class. If there's a guy who can switch sides, he might be it. If not, I think he can still play on the right side. I'm not convinced that Titus is going to start at right tackle. Not even a little bit. That Houston offensive line was terrible. So I don't know why we make a trade to try to bring in somebody who came from a terrible offensive line when our offensive line was also terrible. So I love the Fano pick. Can he play left? Yeah, I think maybe. Will they try to play him at left? I haven't 100% heard of what the plan is. We will see. Now, the next two picks, if we flip-flop them, I like them a lot more than when they actually happened. Because I was not happy about the Casey Concepcion pick in the first round. I thought it was a big overdraft. Really good route runner, had drops, but here's the thing. And a lot of people have been saying it for a little while now. Drops in college don't necessarily translate over to drops in the NFL. There's not a one-for-one correlation. So I like the idea of getting that type of receiver. I didn't love it at that pick. What I know that we needed was a big body wide receiver who can win a jump ball and be a red zone threat. I didn't necessarily love Denzel Boston. I thought there was some concerns, but most everybody else I talked to, you included, liked Denzel Boston a lot more than I did. So, And I didn't think that Denzel Boston was going to end up being in the second round. I thought for sure he was going in the first round. So we flop those two and we go Fano, Boston, Concepcion. I'm like, okay, this is actually really fucking smart because we're getting two different types of receivers and an offensive lineman. Let's see where else we go. You get EMW at fucking 58. I don't think anybody expected him to be there. He's going to slide perfectly in on our defense, dude. He's going to be an absolute problem. Then we continue on. Austin Barber. Okay, I like offensive tackle. We need to continue to build depth on our offensive line. Parker Brailsford. This is an interesting pick. I mean, this is one of those physical outliers. The dude is little for an offensive lineman, but moves really fucking well. We need to continue to build the offensive line depth. We have some guys coming back from injury. We get Justin Jefferson, but not your Justin Jefferson. Linebacker. Need to continue to build linebacker depth. Joe Royer, tight end. Kalen Green, quarterback. I'm going to spend a minute on that in a second. And then Carson Ryan, tight end. So we potentially drafted 3 tight ends in a row at the end. I like adding another tight end because we let go of Njoku. It makes 100% sense. I like Joe Royer as well. Carson Ryan, I feel that feels like nothing more than depth. The Taylor Green pick is interesting considering who our head coach now is and the quarterbacks that he has in the past worked with. I think that they are going to give Taylor a legitimate chance to play quarterback. They have said that so far, and I think that will be the case. Because at right now, I mean, who gives a shit in their mind? That's kind of the approach that the Cleveland Browns team has taken. We're not naming starters. We're not doing anything. We're just getting in the fucking practice. Now, some people in the media are saying, name this guy. And obviously there are Shadur fans and Watson fans who are trying to fucking shank each other anytime they can. Taylor Green's going to have a legit chance to try to make this team and play quarterback. And he might. I don't know if he's a quarterback, but he's one of the best athletes in this entire draft. And I love taking him. We can find a way to use him. I think it's great. Overall, top to bottom, we got a really good value in my mind. I didn't love where guys were taken. I thought value could have been, it would have made more sense other ways. But honestly, I can't really complain too much because we hit on a lot of needs. We know that defense is pretty goddamn good. Another linebacker and a safety really is kind of all we need. And then we attacked the offense. Offense. That's what was needed. So I like this. I'm not going to give it an A. I'd give it a B+ if I were giving it a grade, just because of kind of where positionally things happened. But I do think this was another pretty good draft by Andrew Berry. We will see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's when you guys traded back and ended up getting Spencer Fano. I was cool with the trade back. I did not like Fano. I thought you were going to hate the Fano pick because I'm not as high on Fano as some other people. I don't see him as a tackle. I lean a lot of some of my stuff into other pods and programs and stuff that I watch. One of them being that O-line committee, which has got former offensive linemen on there. And on there, they were like, we have seen offensive tackles our whole career. This guy does not have an offensive tackle body. They don't think they'll hold up. They said that, the question marks and concerns of Will Campbell last year with the short arm length, stuff like that, they recognized, but they still felt like he was correct body type for left tackle. Whereas Spencer Fano, they're not so sure about. Also, you guys being in the AFC North, you should be heavily reliant on a run game. And with Quinshawn there, you can do that. That was his weakness. Fano's weakness was in the run game. So that scared me a little bit. There were other tackles that, especially if you were going to be taking a guy that could be playing the right, and I know you say you think that he could possibly flip flop, but like there are other right tackles I liked, or if you look at him as a guard, obviously like Vega was there. And regardless of who you have in the team, I think Vega immediately becomes an upgrade, set it, forget it. And that's a perfect type of mauler for your system where it should be heavily predicated on keep the quarterback upright, but we need to be strong in the run game. So I like the position. I wasn't as big of a fan on the player. I felt like there was better options there. I thought Monroe Freeling towards the end of the draft cycle where he was getting mocked was too high. I feel like 9 would have been too high for him. However, I would have been more comfortable because you guys did a trade back there, right? Yeah. Concepcion, I not as high on as some people out there, but also I understand like if he hits his peak, I think I had said he's Percy Harvin, which is electric. There's value in the run game. There's value all over his gadgety, like a lot of cool stuff you can do with Concepcion. And I did think that he was probably going to go higher than Boston. So that order doesn't necessarily feel wrong to me. Getting Boston is a huge value at pick 39, though, because I don't think that he's going to become a number 1 receiver in the league. I don't think that he will become a guy out of this class where you're like, man, this really should have been necessarily a first-round pick. But if he does hit that top end, we're talking Drake London territory potentially with him. And it does fit with your guys' system because you need that big lockout possession receiver who also, I keep banging the table on this, best run blocking wide receiver in the draft. Yeah. And again, you guys probably should be able to run for his team. So it makes sense for him, that huge value there. So going wide receiver, adding some offensive talent there makes a lot of sense. EMW, we don't need to get too far into that. Like he's commonly mocked in the first round. I thought that he should have been later first round guy, but he is a light version of what we saw Seattle take last year, and that's dangerous in a defense. He could be playing both as a safety or down in that joke role because Joke wasn't a huge linebacker. McNeil Warren is a big safety. Like they could play a little bit more in that box type of role, which is that hybrid type of a role. He's going to be the big nickel.
He's going to be roving around in the fucking back end somewhere.
Yeah. And your guys' defense already really dangerous. So adding that element out there is pretty nice. Barber and Brailsford, where they were taken, I think both those values are perfectly fine. I think Barber fits a little bit more with what I would expect you guys to be schematically. And doesn't have to come in and start right away, but I think that within a year or two, like he absolutely could be a starter for you. Brailsford, you already brought up the size concerns, but technique definitely is a good thing. And if you're trying to pull a center, that's a good type of center to have there. Beyond that, I mean, I'm not huge on Justin Jefferson, Royer, Carson Ryan, and then Taylor Green is just one of those weird outliers.
Dude,
because we don't know.
Yeah.
So to me, will he get the opportunity to possibly play at quarterback or, practice and stuff like that? I think they're going to see what they have in him. But worst case, you do have an athlete that understands how to run an offense because he's played quarterback at a pretty bad level, but he's a really good running quarterback. That's a gadgety type of thing that you absolutely can use. Or you could end up being a tight end or something like that, or an H-back. You can use them in specific packages potentially. And when your offense already has a bunch of question marks around it, you can take some shots like that later in the draft and see if maybe you're able to strike gold. And if not, I mean, a lot of the thought process is that if your quarterback room doesn't work out right now between Shedeur and Watson, that you'll be going into next draft with a heavy emphasis in the first round on quarterback. And then the Taylor Green pick won't really matter. You can start using them at other positions. And it'll be focused on primarily just finding your next franchise guy. So overall, solid draft. Again, I don't necessarily like all of the players as much as some of the other options that were available, but I think you guys hit on a lot of your needs with guys who consensus-wise are considered to be pretty high picks. Those top 4, all consensus-wise, pretty darn good value. So I can't complain about any of those for you guys. This could be another Browns draft, which I felt better about that Browns draft last year and the guys that you got. I know I felt better about it than you did at the time with some of those guys. I don't feel the same way, but I still feel good about this draft. So yeah, it's still in that kind of B+ territory to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, EMW. I mean, that's the one from this class. That value was just insane in my mind. Yeah. Couldn't believe they were able to pull that off.
All right, next up, Denver Broncos. So Broncos did not have a first-round pick. Didn't do a whole lot of moving around to get up anywhere higher. So they start off at pick 66 with one of their 7 picks that they have and take Tyler Onyedinma. I did not have him anywhere.
What happened to my camera? It just went all blurry.
Focus issue. I didn't have him anywhere near day 2. He was square in the day 3 conversation for me, so I wasn't a huge fan of that pick. But then the next 3 kind of make up for it for me. Actually, what is it? 5 of the next 4 picks I really like. Jonah Coleman, huge Jonah Coleman fan, right? I think that he is excellent. Cage Casey, I was higher than most, but that's because I see him as a tackle, and I think that he could be a really good tackle, or excuse me, a center in this league. Justin Jolly fits in as that receiving type of tight end. I don't know that he's full-on Joker, but it's a lot closer to the Joker tight end that Sean Payton likes. Miles Scott, the safety from Illinois, didn't really know much about him. Not a huge fan there, but Dallin Bentley. This is the guy that during our, going through picks, a guy that I brought up that I like. He is that weird fatly. Like, he looks like he's got the beer belly on him, but he doesn't run around like a fat tight end or anything like that. I think he's a solid kind of chugger tight end that can play in line, but a decent receiver as well. Get him at pick 256, I think, is insane value. 257, Red Murdoch. A lot of people like this guy, small school from Buffalo. Like, extreme production, but it was extreme production at a lower level. So we'll see that, like, with a guy who does profile as that true inside linebacker, more classical style of an inside linebacker. That's a guy that you could take in round 5, 6, 7, and in 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden, this is a guy who's going to have triple-digit tackles on your team. So very possibly could happen on this defense. I wasn't as high on him as some people. Mm-hmm. Cool name, I think, helps. Red Murdoch is a cool name, so
all-time
definitely helps. But at pick 257, it's really good value there for him at 257. But yeah, that's that first pick at pick 66. That was the one where I was kind of like, oof, I don't know what we're doing here. And then through the rest of the draft, outside of that, again, Miles Scott, who I don't know enough about to be truly speaking on, I think that they got pretty solid players after, pick 100 throughout the rest of their draft. So while this draft isn't graded very well, and I think a huge part of that is that first pick at pick 66 for me, I kind of like the rest of it. So for me, this is like a B plus draft kind of for me.
Okay, so I am not that high. I would go probably C plus, B minus. I think the Jonah Coleman pick is fantastic. I mean, they have been trying to figure out the running back situation there. Obviously, they re-signed Dobbins. And God, I just forgot the kid's name from last year who they drafted. RJ Harvey.
Yeah. That's, I think, Coleman and Harvey are the perfect 1-2 punch for each other.
So I agree. So listen, Dobbins has been around the league for a little while, and injuries have always kind of crept up. We have talked about Jonah Coleman, maybe not as much as we should have, but we have brought his name up. And every time we talk about him, he's a guy who can be a 3-down back. He's kind of a thumper type guy. And then you get RJ Harvey, who is more of your, Jerick McKinnon type guy that comes in and spells for your Minnesota people out there. Mm-hmm. And it would really, really fit J.K. Dobbins.
With an Isaiah Pacheco in a Jerick McKinnon type situation, lightning thunder. Yeah. But that's what it is that I think Jonah Coleman can be a 3-down back, but he doesn't have the top end speed, the explosive play stuff. He's good at thumping. He's good between the tackles. He's good at receiving. He's good at spinning off blocks and breaking tackles. But he's probably not going to break the 30, 40, 50-yard run for you because he's probably going to get brought down from behind, whereas RJ Harvey is that lightning that is the perfect offset to it. And you can't completely count on J.K. Dobbins because while J.K. Dobbins does have everything that you want from a full-time starting back, he can't stay on the field, constantly injured, and that sucks for him. So this kind of provides a path to the future in that running back room.
100%. So I think that's a great pick. I like Gage Casey. Their offensive line was really fucking good as it was. So that's a good depth signing. The Justin Jolly pick I like at that point, like because right before they were on the clock, I believe, is when oh goddamn, tight end's name from Vanderbilt.
Eli Stowers.
Stowers went off the board right before I believe they were getting ready to pick. So they had to kind of pivot. And I think that Justin Jolly there later on is the right place to pivot to for that Joker type tight end for Sean Payton. I mean, that is what he does. So that makes a lot of sense. I don't know anything about Miles Scott either. Red Murdoch is a guy that I was seeing getting mocked late. I had to do some research after the first couple times I saw Red. But listen, Buffalo has produced NFL talent before. It's not like Buffalo has never had a dude. Khalil Mack came from Buffalo, and Khalil Mack was fucking spectacular. Now, Red Murdoch is not Khalil Mack. Let's pump the fucking brakes, everybody, all right? Just because I brought the name up doesn't mean I'm comparing them. But they play legit football there. So he can slide in and, like you said, at some point, potentially become a starting fucking linebacker for him. So I don't love their top pick there. I don't know who the fuck Miles Scott is. Casey there is depth. So I'm kind of like a C+, B-.
Okay.
Listen, they were already really fucking good. So they didn't need to have an A draft.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, next up, Houston Texans. They come into this draft. They got 8 picks at the end of it. And at pick 26, they fit spot on their offensive line, which was already perfect according to their GM. They take Keelan Rutledge, who's a very solid player. He was slept on a little bit through this process, seen as more of like a second or third round pick. But as we got closer, more and more insiders are saying, like, a lot of the GMs are like, it's not out of the question this guy goes in the first round because of how talented he is and how much this class kind of falls off after that first 15 picks where, you're seeing more second round guys fit in there. So I like the Keelan Rutledge pick. I think that he immediately slots in as a starting guard for them. Caden McDonald, also a guy who immediately slots in at pick 36 as a fantastic nose tackle with some upside to him. And so those 2 picks alone, I'm a huge fan of. And then the rest of this draft is kind of meh. Look, Kamari Ramsey, getting him at pick 141 is solid. Marlon Klein.
Why the fuck did Klein come off the board right here? That was when the whole tight end thing started, and it created a fucking fiasco.
Yeah, and I like Klein. I like Klein 100 picks later.
Sure.
And so that
I'm not
was
saying Klein's a bad pick, but a bad player. But what in the fuck? There were, I don't know, 100 other tight ends on the board.
It seems like it.
And he was the second one picked, if I'm not mistaken.
And we just talked about Jolly. I like Jolly better than Klein as a traditional receiving tight end, but he went 100 picks later. It was an interesting selection. Obviously, they are high on Klein, but Klein, I believe, German, not a ton of football experience, a lot of projection and potential upside with him. We just didn't really get to see it there at Michigan. There was other tight ends while he was there who've been pretty damn good. So that to me was a pretty huge reach there. But like I said, Kamari Ramsey is a player I like at 141, but the rest of the guys in this draft do nothing to move the needle for me. Hopefully those first 2 picks at 26 and 36 work out for them. Because look, the defense already was very fucking solid. The offense has the potential to be really good as long as they fix that offensive line and get CJ Stroud out of this slump. So getting a Keelan Rutledge probably fixes a huge issue.
I mean, does it fix a huge issue, or does it plug one fucking hole in a boat that had 4 fucking holes in it?
Their offseason and who they brought in on the offensive line, they brought in a bunch of guys who can play that were better than what they had previously. I think you can look at Rutledge, and I don't know if he's going to play left or right side, but he's going to come in and he's going to start right away. And then with the other 4 spots amongst who you have, you can probably find some way, shape, or form. I believe Wyatt Teller went down there. They'll find some other guys to be able to play, and it will be a level better than it was last year. And Keelan Rutledge can kind of be the pivot point for that, as far as base everything off of this. This is our one known commodity. We know he's going to be good, and we'll fit around him.
I think that maybe they have improved their interior of their offensive line. I do not know that they have improved on the edges.
Yeah,
we will see, because they didn't address that at all. Hey,
no.
Lewis Bond got drafted.
He did.
No. But I mean, there's not much else to talk about there.
Wasn't a huge fan. Wasn't a huge fan of him.
Yeah. All right, man. You want me to move on to Indy?
Yeah, Indianapolis Colts, 9 picks. What do you got from this class, Mike?
All right, man. So at pick 53, CJ Allen comes off. I had seen CJ Allen mocked a lot higher. We had talked about him before. I think can be like a true middle linebacker in the league.
Oh, yeah.
So I really like this pick. They have been trying to figure out that linebacker spot for a while. AJ Halsey, another guy I really like. Rangy fucking safety. Like, that helps that defense immensely. Jalen Farmer, I also like. I didn't necessarily love him going here. I do like Betcher, though. Caden Curry, I think, is a really good depth pick later on. George Crumbs, I don't necessarily know a ton about, so I'm not going to say anything. Gumps. Yeah, so I don't even know how to say his name. And why does my camera I got to stop moving, dude. If I get animated.
He's too happy. He's too excited.
If I move around and get animated, the shit just goes off. Yeah, George Gumps Jr., I don't know fuck all about. Seth McGowan and then Deion Burks to finish it out. Listen, I like the top of this thing a lot in CJ Allen and AJ Halsey. I think Betcher also is a good get. Outside of that, I mean, Caden Curry, some good value depth. I thought that they would have addressed the offensive side of the ball a little bit more, especially with losing Pittman. I thought we were going to see a receiver or a tight end or something at some point to help out on the offensive side of the ball. But they were very, very defensive heavy in this. I like the top enough that I'd probably give it, B plus. What about you? Where are you at on this thing?
Yeah, so I'm a little higher on Farmer than you are. I think that at 113, that was about the top end of where I would start to take him. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was a reach too high for me. But CJ Allen and AJ Halsey, I think, are two immediate plug-and-play guys. I brought up CJ Allen a lot. He does nothing that is super exciting on the field. He's just super solid on the field. And I'll say it, as I've said it multiple times, he was a true field general for that Georgia defense. He was able to call the defense, extremely smart. So that makes him a force multiplier because he's getting everyone else on that defense in the correct position to do the right thing. AJ Halsey, I was huge on him for my Vikings. He was like what I felt was the best fit for my Vikings with the system and everything as far as safeties go. So to get him at pick 78, I felt like was a fantastic value because I had him more closer to like 40, 45 range as where I felt like he could go. And he's going to fit in super well next to Cam Bynum. Those two are going to be able to play off of each other really well in the back end of that defense. Again, brought up Farmer. I think that he's a solid offensive lineman. Colts have done a really good job with their offensive line, so I trust that they're going to be able to develop him correctly. Bryce Betcher, a little bit undersized, but a solid linebacker there as well. Gums and Curry, where Gums was taken is way too high for me. I had him 7th round-ish. So where Caden Curry went was more in line with what I felt for Gums. Seth McGowan is an interesting one. He is very talented, has some shades of another running back that's already on this team in Jonathan Taylor. It's just a question of, and I do believe that his legal troubles are behind him, but Seth McGowan, he was arrested for armed robbery. I believe because he was in a vehicle or in part of a robbery, but wasn't necessarily like an active participant type thing. There's been some other little things here and there. which it really hurt him in college and his development. But after moving and going to Kentucky, he's been pretty good in the NFL. But there is a little bit of projection there, and you're not going to get to play right away behind that Jonathan Taylor. But they've traditionally been able to have some pretty solid backups there and develop them pretty well. And then Max Llewellyn, your very traditional 4-3 defensive end type of guy at pick 237, which we see a little bit less of these days.
Well, hold on. Who did you just say?
Max Llewellyn.
Where do you see that at?
Pick 237.
That is Seth McGowan.
They got 237 on here twice. On mine, Seth McGowan at 237, Max Llewellyn at 237.
Okay, because the next pick, I have Seth McGowan and then Dion Burks next, and that's coming from NFL.com. That's where I'm working off of.
PFF, it does show him. Check here.
Fucking that's why PFF shouldn't have fired all those people.
Very true. Google real quick where he went.
Because you said 237. I was like, that name sounds familiar, but it's not Seth McGowan.
Llewellyn went to the Dolphins. Interesting.
Max Llewellyn and Seth McGowan were close
very
enough, but it was
names.
fucking me up.
Yep, well, there you go, PFF. You fucked up.
All right, so Dion Burks is the last pick there.
At 254. And that's I think he's a depth guy. Not a whole lot else about it.
Understood.
So overall, I do really like the top end of this class. The first four picks I think are all going to be at a minimum role players, but some guys who are probably going to slot in pretty quick and early on.
The top for sure I like. Jalen Farmer, we'll see. Let's move on to the Jags, which also did some weird shit. At pick 56, their first pick of this draft, they take Nate Borkacher, who they could have got in their fifth round pick at 164, it feels like. And then they back it up with Albert Regis at 81. Now, Pregone, I liked at 88. That was a great pick. That good value there. Jalen Husky at pick 100. Wesley Williams at 119. Another tight end, and Tanner Koziel at 164. Josh Cameron, a guy that I saw and I was intrigued by after the Senior Bowl at 191. CJ Williams at 203. Zach Dufree at 233. And Parker Hughes at 240. If you don't know a lot of those names, I don't think you would be the only one. This felt odd, like a lot.
Yeah.
The Borkacher thing off the rip was fucking weird. I didn't understand the fit or the need there, but okay. Like that, if you want to take a tight end, cool. Not that one there. Made no goddamn sense to me. Other than, Pregnon, a Koziel, and a Cameron, I have question marks on what the hell we were thinking and why we were thinking it when we were thinking it.
Yeah, I really hate this draft class in general. It feels like bad process, bad. Outside of Pregnon, getting Pregnon at 88, absolute slam dunk. This guy should have been a second rounder, and a higher second rounder in my opinion. That's how good I feel about Emmanuel Pregnon. But like, there's some names on here that I like, but they are just completely surrounded by a lot of other chaff. Like you brought up Borkacher with that first pick at pick 56. I like Koziel better, but Koziel was selected at the right spot at 164. Borkacher to me was lower than Koziel. So he's at least 120 picks too high for me, which is insane. Regis, I think that he was 50 to 70 picks too high for me at pick 81. I like Jalen Husky, another 50 to 70 picks too high for me. Don't know Wesley Williams. Josh Cameron, right around the correct range for him at 191 with some traits. CJ Williams, not draftable. Zach Durfee. I like Zach Durfee. He's a feel-good story. Probably undraftable. Like probably a UDFA type guy. Parker Hughes, UDFA. I don't know what they were doing with this. I don't know if they leaned heavily into some sort of AI analytics or something like that. Like the class doesn't make sense to me. Outside of Pregnon, like I think you're going to get extremely good value for getting him at pick 88. The rest of it, over 50. This was a playoff team. Over 50% of these guys, I don't think make the roster.
That's exactly how I feel. I was like, why the fuck are you even bringing these guys in? Or are you just dumping draft picks? Like we they have to pay these guys though because they drafted them. It doesn't.
Yes.
This is such a shit draft. It doesn't make any sense, man. Listen, I wish they would have done something crazy like this when we were holding their first round pick the following year, because I don't see how this improves them a whole lot.
No, it bothers me a lot. It feels like, and I don't say this often, this is terrible. Terry Fontenot would have done better. Not a ton, but like it doesn't make sense to me, man. So I don't know. I can't get behind anything other than Pregnon. That fell into your lap at 88, and you passed on him at 81. Like, so also shame on you. You passed on him at 56, so shame on you. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. Let's turn to a good draft because the Chiefs are next. They moved up and traded with my Browns. Appreciate that. They take Mansour Delane, CB1 in this draft because of injuries to McCoy and, the actual best corner in this draft being 4 inches too short to be the best corner in the draft. You get Peter Woods at 29, another good pick. R. Mason Thomas, another good pick. Jaden Canaday, I thought this was too high, but I don't dislike the player. Emmett Johnson, I feel like is going to be a really nice role player for them. Cyrus Allen, really good receiver, that Cincinnati connection. And then you get Nussmeier, okay? Nussmeier got drafted. I remember saying when I was at the Senior Bowl that I didn't think that Nussmeier was a starting quarterback in the NFL. I didn't think he was a quarterback in the NFL. He almost fucking wasn't. But, hey, I think what they did with their top of their draft, fantastic. Even their middle rounds, I don't necessarily hate, especially if you reorder them. If you switch Canaday and Johnson, it's too high for Johnson too. Canaday is a little bit of a reach for me. I think that they were fantastic here. I thought what they did was really good. Nussmeier provides depth, and that's it. And we won't have to worry about, is Nussmeier is he a starting quarterback? He's behind Pat Mahomes. We're not going to know shit about Garrett Nussmeier for a minimum of fucking 2 to 3 years until they're in a position where Nussmeier can go out there because the season's been wrapped up and play some fucking games. How do you feel about this thing?
I think it's one of the best draft classes in this draft. Yeah. I do. I agree with you on Jaden Kennedy, where he was picked at 109 is a little high, but he was a guy that I did like, and a guy who I think that in a couple of years absolutely could be a starter. But Mansour Delane, fantastic. Peter Woods, fantastic. R. Mason Thomas, fantastic. A little bit of a schematic difference, like primarily just a pass rusher, not great against the run, and a little bit smaller than what they traditionally have for those pass rushers. But what he does is very good, and that could signal a little bit of a schematic shift with what they're doing. I already talked about Kennedy. Emmett Johnson, I think he's great. I think 161 is a perfect spot for him. Cyrus Allen, trait C type of guy, and at pick 176 is great. They needed receiver depth. And Nussmeier, if you look at the depth chart for the Chiefs, obviously it's Patrick Mahomes, and it's only Patrick Mahomes, right? But we don't know if Mahomes is going to be back right away. Now they're saying that he should be able to start practicing and stuff by OTAs already, but still coming off of an injury. So they have Justin Fields is now the guy there that can go in and play a little bit. He can run an offense. and that's better than Chris Olodokun, who was the guy that had to play for him last year when Gardner got hurt. All right. Yeah. So Justin Fields is your Gardner, but Justin Fields is not long for the Chiefs. He'll be there this year. He's that safety net for if Patrick Mahomes isn't ready, but he's probably going to be ready. Nussmeier, yeah, I don't know that he ever has to play. He gets to be the CJ Daniels. He's son of a coach. He's been in more professional style systems and whatnot in college football. He's the clipboard guy that gets to assess stuff, and you don't have to rely on his physical talents, which there was obviously some upside there in college.
Sure.
And there's a tumor. and
I'm sorry. You know. Listen, it sounds callous, right? Like, well, I mean, there's traits and he can be really good, except for he has a thing that prevents him from being good. I'm sorry that's the way it works out, but that is what it is.
I think that at pick 249, though, it's completely fine.
Sure.
He
absolutely. You take him way back there, it makes 100% sense.
He could be a perfect backup quarterback for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Clipboard guy. That's
guy.
You know, your
foxhole
Mullins and stuff like that. Like, I don't know about a foxhole guy.
Yeah.
That's for the food family guys like CJ Ham or Max Bredson, things like that. But it's a fantastic pick there for him because he gets to learn behind one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and already put some of his coaching mentality that might be coming through his DNA to use while learning the game. I don't have a single complaint about this draft class. I think for the most part, guys are taken where they should be. Yeah, Kennedy is a little bit higher, but I liked Kennedy in like round 5, you know. So I don't have a complaint with this one. I think they hit pretty much all their needs.
I agree, man. It was a really
solid players.
Yeah, really good draft class for them. And listen, the Chiefs do not often pick that high, and they took full advantage of it. Now, a team that does often pick high, the team that picked number 1, the Raiders, I agree. I think they had also a banger draft here, man. Like, they did phenomenal. Obviously, Mendoza, number 1, we knew that was happening. There was no doubt in anybody's mind. It's just, what were they going to do after that? I think trading Stukes at fucking 38, great goddamn pick for them.
Love him. Safety probably.
For sure.
Nickel, but like, love trading Stukes.
Trading Stukes can fucking ball. Kieran Crawford, obviously, that there's been some things been happening with that defensive line. Huge get there. They improved the offensive line and Trey Zune III, a guy that nobody really talked about, the guards from fucking A&M. The kid can play for sure.
I think he's a center. He was one of him, Cage Casey, and Brian Parker Jr. were the 3 tackles that you're gonna in prior to the draft. I felt like we're gonna go off in rounds 3 to 5, and they're all gonna be starting centers in the NFL within a couple of years. So I like the Trey Zune pick right around where he was taken.
Yep. Then you get crazy value if it pans out. Jermod McCoy at 101. We were worried about how far he was going to fall. He fell a long fucking ways. If he comes back, that's incredible for the Raiders. And then they back it up with a Mike Washington Jr., who is a great complement to what they already have. Now, Dalton Johnson, I don't feel like that's a great pick there. Hezekiah Massis, I feel like has traits, a guy that makes a lot of sense. Malik Benson, and then Brandon Cleveland, But you look basically to Mike Washington, I love what they fucking did.
Yeah, I think the last 4 picks in the draft, Hezekiah Massis is a developmental guy. I'm perfectly fine with that pick, but this is all about the first 6 picks in the draft. I mean, you can't go wrong with Mendoza. You have to go there, right? But Stukes, absolutely loved him. Would have loved him as a Viking. Kieran Crawford, good value at pick 67, immediate upgrade. Trey Zune, starting center. Jermod McCoy, even if he has to get that knee fixed this year and he doesn't play this year, if he goes back to 80% of what he was in 2024, it's an absolute fucking steal there. And taking him at pick 101 means that you don't have the pressure of having him play right away. You can do what's right for him, get him right, get him healthy, and possibly walk away with the best corner in the draft. Mike Washington, again, I was not as high as Draft House on him.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I didn't like him. I did like him. And this was even a little bit later than where I would have had him. Like, I thought that he's a third, fourth round guy. 122 is later, but like you can't ignore the height, weight, speed combo of him.
Yeah.
The last four, I don't really care about. It's the top end of that draft. This was a team bereft of talent in a lot of areas. They got better in a lot of areas. You almost couldn't go wrong as long as you didn't take a Nate Borkircher with your second round pick.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They took guys who maybe aren't the highest of upside in all the spots, but they took guys that are going to be able to be starters in this league, players. And I think that they got guys who are starters all the way through their first 6 picks. So,
yeah, man,
yeah,
they really
good
fucking
class.
They really did get guys who can be. So Mike Washington can be a starter. They'll figure out how the fuck that's going to work. But
well, remind me, who are the running backs there?
Janty,
Ashton Genty. So he doesn't have to come in and be the number one guy, but he's a real nice compliment.
I think that they will complement each other
Genty.
well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he'll start, but man, I really like these guys.
All right, next up, the LA Chargers. 8 picks in this draft class, and at pick 22, they take Akeem Leather Helmet Mesidor, the old fella. But I'm fine with that because they need guys who can play right now, and Mesidor is able to step in right now. They get a Jake Slaughter out of Florida, a guy who looks like he should be 32 with that goatee, but pretty solid pick there at pick 63. And then beyond that, I'm not super high on pretty much anyone in this class. Genesis Smith is a name. He's a guy that is decent in coverage, but does not want to ever have to tackle a person, which bothers me a lot. That was like he would avoid tackles, which
they have a safety who tackles people. They don't need a guy that tackles people.
Sure, but like, and look, you're gonna have it 131. That's nice. It is football.
Yeah,
and sooner or later you're gonna have to do that. That bothered me a little bit, but at 131, it's not terrible value. But beyond that, like Brennan Thompson, I thought was taken a little bit too high. I picked 105. Like he's a solid draftable player. The rest of the guys, though, throughout this, I'm not super high on any of them. So they really have to hope that Akeem Mesidor is able to come in right away and provide a boost to that defense. And then Jake Slaughter, I think, has the potential to slot in very quickly as their starting center. And that's kind of a Harbaugh type of thing. Like you get guys who have proven to be solid offensive linemen that can get out there and start right away. That was like the reason why the Chargers season fell apart was because the offensive line fell apart. So if they're able to get that offensive line settled, it's good. I'm not excited by this draft. It's like a B minus C plus to me, but they got 2 guys with those first 2 picks that I think can be pretty early immediate contributors. Although their upside is probably capped.
Yeah, I don't like this draft. I was not a huge Akeem Mesidor fan. What I think this draft is, though, is just they were trying to solidify some depth. You brought it up. Their offensive line is really good, but they were super fucking hurt last year, and it killed that team. And they dressed offensive line with 4 picks out of their 8. Like it feels like they were just trying to solidify that offensive line, generate some depth, because they were really fucking good last year. They were on pace to be one of the better teams in the AFC. And then injuries kind of derailed their season. So this is another team that I don't know if they need an A-type draft. It felt like they were just literally going out there trying to draft some depth so they can be the team that they expected to be last year. Oh, I am getting sick AF. But I would go probably C+, B- in that range as well. Because, listen, they did what I think their goal was, which was to generate depth. Doesn't move the needle, but they were already really fucking good. So, now, we're ready to move on to the draft of all drafts.
The Miami Dolphins.
The Miami Dolphins who drafted everybody. They drafted fucking everybody.
12 picks. And look, I'm going to just start off by saying I think this is like a B plus draft.
It's okay. They have some.
There's
really
a lot
nice
of guys.
pieces.
There's a lot of guys in here that I do like. Not a lot of like necessarily super high end, top end upside, but I think that this team was absolute dog shit. And so a lot of these guys, unlike the Jaguars, who brought in just a bunch of fucking Jags,
literally,
that these guys are going to get some play, and they actually are like the dichotomy between the Jags draft and this draft is crazy because like this draft class doesn't completely blow me away. Those are a lot of guys on here that are like my guys I like, things like that. I think they got solid value through a lot of the rounds. There's a bunch of guys in here that like I could really care less about as well because you got 12 picks and you're going to get a bunch of that. But look, like Caden Proctor at 12 was kind of wild to me. I think really the value was off like compared to what was on the board there. But they absolutely needed a guy like a Caden Proctor. They needed an offensive line help. So like whatever. But then you hit slam dunks in Chris Johnson and Jacob Rodriguez.
Yep.
Love both of those picks. Caleb Douglas is that's high for me at 75.
Agreed, but you know what? You know who they got later that completely makes up for that? Chris Bell. Should have fucking been taken at least at 75, if not higher.
Yeah, because Chris Bell could be AJ Brown if the injury stuff wasn't there. So I love that. Cac Merrick is sure, absolutely
all
too
the
high.
Tight ends went too high though.
But blocking tight end and stuff like that, it's a position of need still for him. And it makes a lot more sense than a Borkircher before that. Like, I liked him better than Borkircher because of his blocking capability and pass receiving upside. Trey Moore, I think, is a solid value at 130. I wasn't a huge fan of him. But then you get an opposite type of linebacker because Trey Moore definitely can play a little bit more edge. You get an opposite type of linebacker in Kyle Luis, who realistically could be a big safety. And by big, I don't mean size necessarily. But like, he's just a player. To walk out of this with the two guys at the Senior Bowl at linebacker who were fucking phenomenal in Kyle Luis and Jacob Rodriguez is super interesting. And then you get a Michael Taft, who I'm a huge fan of as well. And I think is really good value at 158. Kevin Coleman Jr., a guy who I have kind of come to like this could be like a Stephon Diggs in this draft. Size and ability comparison needs to work on the route running a little bit. Seydou Traore and DJ Campbell don't do anything for me, but like there's a lot of guys throughout this draft that I'm like, yep, I see the path to this guy getting on the field relatively quick, at least a rotational capacity through a lot of this draft. It was a little bit, I don't even want to call it meat and potatoes because I mean,
there were some reaches, but there were some great fucking gets. Like you have to like, when you look at all the names, if you're completely irrelevant of where they were fucking taken, you're like, damn, this is a fucking great goddamn class.
Yeah.
As soon as you look at where some of these guys were taken, you're like, so I'm going to go from an A to like a B plus. And that's what I would like. I would go B plus. They're just under a fucking A, just because some of the things are a little weird to me and where they got guys. But there's a ton of fucking dudes here that I think can play in the league.
Yeah, like Kyle Luis is the interesting one because like I do feel like his size is going to be somewhat prohibitive to him being a full-time starter.
Sure.
But a special teams and a rotational guy, I really like him. And
you put him out on the field on fucking nickel situations all the time.
But again, looking at this class, I think starters almost day one is Caden Proctor, Chris Johnson, Jake Rodriguez, and Chris Bell.
Yeah.
I think that they all step in. And Taff, I think, has a path at also being a starter this year. Maybe not day one, but a starter this year. So, that's 5 to 6 guys. I think that they're walking out of this 12-man class, and they're going to get guys who are starters out of it, which is, maybe some of the ceilings are capped. Who knows? But that's why it's that B plus range for me.
Yeah. Listen, this is the start of a massive rebuild that is going to have to take place over numerous years, considering the contracts that were given out. This is an exceptional start to that fucking process. It's only a start, but it is a really goddamn good start in my mind.
All right, next up, the Super Bowl runner-up, New England Patriots.
Man,
and it's interesting.
So interesting.
Day 3 was a lot of what the fuck, in my opinion. And it's interesting that their head coach wasn't there for day 3. I don't know why.
Was it interesting that why he wasn't there?
I don't know why he wasn't there. But everything fell apart then. Not that day 2 was the greatest, but I can get behind some of the picks here. Caleb Lomu, I think, is an all right value for pick 28. Some guys that I liked better as far as tackles available there, but it's relatively solid. They needed some tackle help. Gabe Yakis, solid edge rusher. Raritan at pick 95 with where tight ends were going in this draft, I'm okay with. But still, I felt it was a little high. But
too high, but all the tight ends.
Yep. And then from there on out, it's a lot of what the fuck.
Oh, so I don't hate the Crownover pick, but you could have got Crownover in the 7th round.
Yeah.
I don't know the Jam Miller pick and all this at the end. Why? What? That running back room is full as fuck. Why are we wasting a pick on a Jam Miller who, honestly, I don't even know if he's going to make the team. I didn't think he was getting drafted.
I don't know. I pick 171. They should have taken Eli Heidenreich, and then we would have felt real different about this, I think.
100%, dude. Eli Heidenreich fell a long, long ways.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have, batted an eye if the New England Patriots had taken him at pick 171 over, sorry, Karen Prunty. Who are you? I don't know. Maybe I will in 3 or 4 years. But I know Heidenreich. I know that would have been a perfect Patriots type player, and would have made sense for him to go to that pick. Yeah, I struggle with this class, not as much as the Jags class, because I think the first 2 to 3 picks make some relative sense. Not the greatest of values necessarily, but make some relative sense. And then everything just kind of went bleh. So yeah, I'm at a C on this class, C minus. I don't think that there's great value. I don't know. It's tough to know. Vrabel has a type of guy that he likes. Who knows if any of these guys pick 171 and later are Vrabel guys or not.
Right. We have no idea.
Because I don't know a lot of them. I know who Jam Miller is. I know who Demetrius Crownover is. End of conversation. I don't know Baron Morton, who was taken at pick 234 and plays quarterback.
Texas Tech guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
you didn't scout Baron Morton. Nobody did. Don't worry.
No.
He wasn't supposed to be drafted. So, I don't get it, man. I do not get it. We do have a question coming in here. Kenneth M7C. How do you grade my Texans draft? We talked about the Texans just a little bit ago. We had them both in I believe it was the C range, C minus is areas, C pluses, like Rutledge, like McDonald. But after that, shit got fucking chaotic and haywire. Ramsey's a good pick, but most of those guys I don't understand. Yeah,
Klein like him, but liked him at least 100 picks later. So at pick 59, I felt like you left a lot of value out there. Fabechi Nwanu, or Nwayu, however you say it. I feel like that, again, we already talked Texans, but I think a lot of these guys in the 3rd round and later were heavy reaches. Ramsey's kind of the gem out of that group.
Yeah.
So, but Keelan Rutledge and Kaden McDonald, both extremely solid. Love both those guys.
Good picks for sure there. All right, sliding down, we got the Jets next. And man, they had a pretty goddamn good draft in my mind. Some things I don't necessarily agree with, but they started off pick 2, David Bailey. We had talked about this being the mock for a while. They wanted the pass rush. They got it. That's the guy with the most pass rush bag. Then they follow that up. They get a Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, playmaker. I don't know if you consider him a tight end. He's a fucking playmaker. He goes out there, he catches the goddamn ball. And then this is where I have a question. Omar Cooper Jr., 30. I don't dislike the player. How are Kenyon Sadiq and Omar Cooper Jr. all that different of types of players and what you're bringing into that offense? I don't know that they really are. I love D'Angelo Pond. Great fucking pick. Daryl Jackson Jr. like that too. Cade Klubnik, I don't love that. That made no goddamn sense either. Inez Cooper, I don't hate. And then VJ Payne, fine where he was taken. I really like their draft class, but the Omar Cooper Jr. pick I didn't love. And it's not because I don't like the player.
I'm definitely much lower on the player, Omar Cooper, and I'm much lower than consensus on Cooper. And so I take that into account with that. It's like my personal bias. I liked Surratt so much better than Cooper. Like I would have taken Surratt here. I would have taken a Ted Hurst higher than Cooper personally. There's Jeremy Bernard I like better than Cooper. I just wasn't that high on Cooper, and I am completely off from consensus with that. So I recognize that. But Bailey makes all the sense. King Sadiq, fantastic player. Omar Cooper, I think like Sadiq obviously is going to be playing that a little bit more of that move tight end role. He's a bigger body than Cooper. But getting a receiver in Cooper is all right. D'Angelo Ponce, you got a first round caliber cornerback at pick 50. And possibly one of, if not the top 2 best corners in this class, in my opinion. I love Ponce. Daryl Jackson is really good value at pick 103. Not super high upside, but definitely a good floor on him. Cade Klubnik, I'm not a Cade Klubnik guy, but you don't have a quarterback there. It's not going to, I guess, hurt to take a shot on a guy because every once in a while, quarterbacks develop, become good, and you don't have one. And if for some reason Cade Klubnik comes in and beats out what's his nuts from the Raiders and the Jets and the Seahawks, I can't think of his name now. Who's their starter? Why can't I think of his name?
Jesus Christ, Geno Smith again.
Geno Smith. Yeah. If somehow Cade comes in and looks like it develops out of nowhere and looks good, like holy shit, you go into next year with 3 first-round picks and you don't have to force a quarterback. And all of a sudden this roster is just like
you can fleece fucking Jimmy Haslam, I guarantee it. Jimmy Haslam's ready to suck whatever dick he has to draft fucking Arch Manning.
Yeah. Like it well, that'll be an interesting conversation in the future of if the family will allow that.
Yeah, that's scary. Well, you know what? We're building a new stadium, guys. It's gonna be great.
But so yeah, like that's a nothing burger to me. But also, I am a proponent of every other year basically take your shot on a mid-round guy to see if you can get something out of him because backup quarterbacks have value. They do. And then VJ Payne with that last pick of 228, I think that's lower than I would have liked him. He's a hard hitter, needs to develop otherwise, but he's a hard hitter. So at 228, I think that's good value on him. Solid draft here, A minus for me for the Jets because again, another roster that just has talent issues all over the place. And not only did you get a lot of good talent, but you got them at spots that you need them. Again, like the one that I'm lowest on is Omar Cooper, but that's again, I'm off of consensus on him. It's not because I can't see the fit. They need receivers out there. So I'm not like super off of it.
Yeah, understood. Listen, I think it's a really good draft class. I think that they're going to be I know Jeremy was fucking happy as shit, especially when they drafted Sadiq. he about fucking gooed himself. But I like what they did. Let's slide on to the next group, who I also really like, and I hate it because it's the Steelers. So they start at the top, Max Einacher, who I saw at Senior Bowl, and I really liked what he did. They have needed offensive line help, tackle help for sure. Makes a lot of sense. Jeremy Bernard, that's a really goddamn good get for them. I don't love that. Drew Aller, I feel like that was a reach, but you know what? Crazy high physical traits. They don't have a quarterback right now either. Dalen Everett, I feel like that was a little high. Jennings Dunker, though, excellent pick. Got to continue to improve that offensive line. Caden Wachin, that was high for me as well. I mean, great returner, but he's not going to provide much else.
Yeah.
Riley Nowakowski, a guy that you talked about, really liked, is going to fit right in on that team. AFC North football player through and through. Gabe Rubio, we don't need to talk about that one. Robert Spears Jennings, big ass safety. So that will be dangerous. And then they get my guy, Eli Heidenreich, at the end of this thing. Them taking Eli and that moment that happened, day 3.
Special.
Like one of the best stories of the entire thing, man. I'm very happy for Eli. If you have not seen the video, I had an exchange with Eli at Combine. I asked him several questions. However, the main one that got posted was about crayons and if he had a favorite one. He does not have to worry about eating any of those crayons now because he is a fucking NFL football player who plays for my biggest rival. I love you, Eli, and I wish you nothing but the best. But fuck the Steelers.
It always sucks when you got guys that are your guys that you know.
And Eli was my guy, dude. I fucking love Eli.
Yeah.
This is a great draft. They did a really good job. Some of the things I do not agree with, like the Waitchin thing and the Everett, I think those were overdrafts along with Allen. But you get Einacher, Bernard, Dunker, Nowakowski, fucking Heidenreich. All of those guys, in my mind, contribute very early on for the Steelers.
Yeah. It does feel like a good, solid draft where it's nothing super, super spectacular, but this is all setting up for, look, a Steelers team that has got question marks at quarterback. No one knows what is happening with Aaron Rodgers. The scuttlebutt now is Rodgers to Arizona in the last 24 hours. Good luck with that. I don't think that he would ever do that other than being closer to ayahuasca villages and stuff like that. Like,
I mean, he's a California dude. He'll be close to puts him close to California.
Yeah, that's about it. But if he's wanting to play for something, the Steelers are probably his best bet. So that's probably where he will go if he plays. But he's just going to keep stringing them along because he likes to be the center of attention.
Sounds reminiscent of another guy that played quarterback for a long time in Green Bay.
Aaron Rodgers?
No, not Aaron Rodgers. The guy that came before that cocksucker. But It's the same fucking story, man. It's insane.
But you look, Einacher is a great tackle. The Steelers fans were confused when they took him, but promise you, good pick. Jeremy Bernard, solid receiver, kind of redundant to Pittman, but also Pittman is a decent amount older. Jeremy Bernard will be that guy into his second contract. Drew Aller, look, low moving costs with him. You like the physical tools and stuff. He's got to get better at being a quarterback, but also you don't have one. He might be right now better than Will Howard, with Aller coming off the injury. And again, you never know. 76 probably a little high for that. I am higher on Dalen Everett than you. I like him at 85. I think that was perfect round area for him. And a guy that I had heavily scouted for my Vikings because I felt like he fit the Vikings scheme very well. So I'm perfectly fine with that. Jenny Dunker seems like a really solid fucking pick. He's going to play guard for them, but can play tackle in a pinch if you need him to, and possibly center in a pinch if you need him to. Caden Weegan, a guy that I do really like. It is very high for him because he did not provide much offense, but he is potentially the next Dante Hall style returner. And obviously uniform to uniform, nearly the same between the Hawkeyes and them. So it fits. Nowakowski, look back at our old videos. You know I'm a Nowakowski fan. He's a awesome H-back. And then Heidenreich is kind of the cherry on the top there. To get him at pick 230, the hometown guy, feel good story. Worst case, he's a third down style receiving back. But this is a guy that will put his heart out there for you, play special teams. And on the upside of it, he's clone to his, Christian McCaffrey in many ways. So a real solid pick there, pick 230. So yeah, this class, it felt a little bit more meat and potatoes to me and a setup for the future, which is perfectly fine because I don't know that the Steelers are going to be great this year, even if Rodgers comes back. But they have to start looking towards a quarterback of the future and some more auxiliary pieces. This was that. This is a B+ to a A- for me, kind of fringe in between.
Yeah. I probably B+ A- as well. Some of them are overdrafts, but man, I think that they got a lot better. We'll see what happens with We'll see what happens with Drew Aller in that quarterback situation, man. You got to think that Rodgers is going back. Got to think that, right?
They do.
They have to. Otherwise, they have to think that, right?
Yeah, they have to. Otherwise, they would have been in on, I don't know, like a Tyrod Taylor or someone like the last of the last people available.
Yeah.
All right, next up, Tennessee Titans. 8 picks in this draft. And a decent draft. Not like super, super high end, but there's obviously some really good pieces here. They need a lot of help in a lot of different spots, and I think that they filled a bunch of different holes. Carnell Tate and Keldrick Falk with their first 2 picks there. Like, we all know our thoughts on Carnell Tate. Like, outside of Tyson and the injury concerns, like, he's easily like your best wide receiver in this class, which is a great thing to have for a young quarterback. Is a very fucking good receiver. I think he could be the next Chris Carter. Keldrick Falk, not the best pass rusher, but extremely good in the run game and a really solid pick there. Anthony Hill Jr., I have some questions about him at linebacker, but I think that he needs a couple years development before he's a starter, but I think he could be a decent starter there. The rest of this class, though, is only really 3 names, I guess I'll shout out here. Nick Singleton, 2 years ago, was one of the top running backs being looked at, very explosive, now coming off an injury and a bad season there where he was sharing that time with Katron Allen. Katron Allen probably looked better than him. But if you're able to, at 165, utilize him at least just in his explosive capabilities, solid. Pat Coogan,
solid center.
Like, this is your classic, like a guy at 194 who's probably going to be a starter for a long time. Won't be spectacular, but he's going to be a long-term good starter. Yep. And then Jaron Kanik does nothing but block. But blocks pretty well. And so at pick 225, you got yourself a light tackle, which every team needs, especially as we move more towards 3 tight end sets. And so I like his blocking capability. To me, this is like kind of a B draft for the Titans. Obviously, you got 2 really good value pieces there with your first 2 picks. A team that needed a lot of other pieces there. I think they got some of those in Nick Singleton, Pat Coogan, and Jaron Kanik. The other guys I'm not super high on. But yeah, this is like a B- type of draft for me. And it's leaning more towards a B just because of those first 2 picks.
So I like this draft, but I thought it was awkward. Like, it was shocking to me when they took Carnell Tate at 4. Yeah. I was floored because I feel like if they wanted a Carnell Tate, they could have probably even moved down if that was what they wanted. I don't know if there was a big tie to Carnell Tate until towards the very end, as things were starting to kind of happen on draft night, as shit was starting to unfold. I love the player. I wanted him in my on my Cleveland Browns. I thought he was the best receiver in the class. I was shocked when he went at 4, though. Killer, good player. I think deserves first round pick right there at the end of it. Makes a lot of sense. Anthony Hill Jr., I might be a little higher on than you. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. The rest is kind of depth type pieces. I don't know shit about Kanik. I agree with you on the Coogan thing. Like, he's the dude that just kind of lunch pail guy, shows up. You never know about him, never hear about him. He doesn't do anything special.
Wasn't he selected as like the MVP of not the championship, but the game before in college football? Like him, that offensive line. I don't
remember if he was or not. If he was awarded as some sort of award, but like he's just shows up, does his shit, and all right, cool. So I like the draft. I like the draft, but I thought it was weird that they took Carnell Tate there. I thought they could have moved, but listen, there wasn't as much movement as we were thinking. There was some. We knew there was going to be some movement.
I mean, there was a lot of trades
that wanted to move.
I think there was 8 or 9 trades in the first round.
Was it that many?
Yeah. There was actually a relatively high.
I guess towards the end of the first round, right?
Let's see.
You had guys come up. Hold on, now I'm going to have to go back in. So Buffalo trades out Houston. The Jags trade back in. Or no, Buffalo. I don't remember where Buffalo traded out of, but I know Buffalo traded out.
Mm-hmm.
There were some swaps because you had the Cowboys move up to 11.
All right, so we had Dolphins, Titans, Jets, Texans, Cowboys, Eagles, Chiefs. All had trades. Not necessarily all in the first round, but first round trades in general.
Okay. So there were a few. I thought that there were I know the Browns were trying to move. They had been talking about trying to move for fucking forever. Found a way to do it, and it worked out. So listen, I'm happy with where my team ended up in this draft. I think we addressed a lot of our needs. Hopefully the other AFC teams are happy as well, unless you reside in the AFC North, and I hope you fucking hate your drafts, even though basically everybody else in the division, I really liked everybody in the AFC North draft. I thought they did pretty well. I think the only one that didn't do as well as some of the others was the Cincinnati Bengals, even though I still really liked a couple of their pieces. But
so the total picks that were moved, and obviously some of these are back and forth. We had pick 6 was a swap, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 20, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31.
So yeah, it was the back end where they were moving around a lot. So okay. There was more than I thought there were, or than I remember. Mm-hmm. But my man, that was it. That was the last grade for the AFC.
Yeah. Yep. AFC and NFC done.
Boom. Done.
Obviously, these are going to be cut up. Let us know what you think of our thoughts on these drafts, where you think we got it wrong, where you might think that we got it right. I know most people like to tell us where we're wrong. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Because we ain't going to agree. There's a reason why Mike and I aren't GMs, and there's a reason why those of you who are commenting also are not GMs. Because we all suck, and we all are right, and we're all wrong at times. So let us know. Let us know your thoughts.
Well, we're going to get the fuck out of here because it's late. I have wrapped up basically all of my schoolwork. I have one last thing to do. Then I'm going to fucking graduate. So I've been a super, super busy. Evo, I appreciate you. And to everybody who tuned in tonight, we appreciate you guys as well. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime that you give some to us, we are forever grateful for that. I'm going to give Evo one last word. Then we're going to get the fuck out of here. We will be back next week. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about yet. We're going to figure that out kind of as we go. Now that the draft season is starting to wrap up. But stay tuned. Evo, go ahead. Take it away, brother.
Yeah, look, I'll shill for my Minnesota teams right now. Wild, you need to score a couple more goals to get back in this fucking game. But also, howl up. Let's go Timberwolves.
Hell yeah. Go Guards, go Cavs. With that, we're going to get the fuck out of here. I'm Mike. That's Evo. This is Raw Dawg Sports. See you.